So a massive centre-back Evo is on the way, allowing you to use up to 89s and giving a big pace boost. So today everyone should be selling their centre-backs. But before we get away today's video, if you guys are interested, I do offer a daily subscriber trading service over on Twitch/Discord. All you got to do is subscribe over on Twitch, which you can do for free with Amazon Prime. If not, it's £5, €5 or $6. In there, you will receive yourself daily updated investments. We've got some really nice low budget investments where we recommended Celtic players up to 450 coins. And Celtic players went all the way up there to 1.2k in a matter of, I think it was like 10-20 minutes. So really nice right there. And on top of that, we get very, very early on in these investments. And we can go and show you some of those early investments. We recommended the likes of Van Dijk up to 22k, giving plenty of room. He was sitting on the market at 20. I recommend at 22k. I could make it look a bit nicer and recommend at 20, but I'm experienced to tell you that if I recommended at 20, you know, a way smaller portion of people would have been able to buy the cards. And likewise, I recommend it over on PC at the same time at 17k. Well, you know, recommending people to pay a bit more to buy more cards was worth it, as Van Dijk at the moment is 29k on console. That's up 7k and up to 28k on PC, up 11k. He wasn't the only card that we recommended who did well. We recommended Marquinhos up to 35 and he's up to 40. We also recommended Saliba up to 7.5k on console and 7k on PC. I also recommended probably about 40 other centre-backs to go and buy for the Evos, which are up a variety of 5% to 15%, but I think they're only going to rise closer to the Evo coming out. So yeah, loads of great investments in the Discord. Also, one of my mods did go and recommend the likes of Rio this morning at 190k, just because Rio was actually on a low fluctuation, and then he also managed to go and catch the high point of 390k, making 200k for every Rio you bought, following one of the people in my Discord's advice. So yeah, really, really nice coins made over in the Discord, because we get very early on in these leaks and we know how to interpret those leaks to make as many coins as possible. So let's go and talk a little bit about the leak. Now, what was leaked to you guys was this right here, but the leak that we went and got was this right here. Again, I'm not getting leaks from EA, I'm just in the Discords that leak it before it's all public. So these Discords recommended Tuchemeni, Rush, Rio base, Yapstam base, Lucio base, Blanc base, Akanji Ultimate Succession, Company base, and the Lip Globetrotters. And as always, what I do is I go and build a concept squad with all the players on there. Then, once I've gone and built the concept squad with all the players on there, I then go and interpret every single stats and position and so on. So the easiest thing right here is to see that no one's above an 89 rating. So the maximum rating we went and put was 89. The second thing we can go and see from these, and I'll save you me having to show you all of them, the highest pace that you could get away here was actually 83. Well, we actually pair this up with also using what the leakers are tweeting again. The private leaks normally come out, I think it came out about 13 minutes before the public leaks come out, which is, you know, why me being in those Discords does favour people who sign up to the subscriber sort of thing, because it means I can get early. It also means I can get these YouTube videos out earlier than, you know, having to wait another 20 minutes for it to come out and then be able to, you know, release a video. But yeah, so the maximum requirements were 83 pace, but actually that came to 87 when they said the Tamori fits. Shooting up to 72, defending up to 91, passing up to 82, and physical up to 89. So let's walk through some of the cards that go and fit. Now, the first cards that I like to go and talk about that fit are the most expensive cards, because the most expensive cards, you know, normally, well, can sometimes end up being the best cards. Well, the first ones, we've got Lucio here, who's recommended at 140. Well, he's up to 190. We got Rio Ferdinand, like I said this morning, was even down at 190, and that's why my mod recommended him without even knowing about the Evo. Just because you can see at 190 he was on a low fluctuation, let alone him going up to 390k for the Evo hype, and he's back down to 330 now. Yapstam was another very popular card. If we can go and see, before the Evo he was going for about 170, picking up there to about 230. Another player that did well is Sol Campbell. I recommended Sol Campbell at 180k. You can see I recommended him inflated on what he was going for. I just knew that he'd be well demanded. And at the moment he's picked up from 180k up to 200k, making about 10k per card, but I do think there can be more hype in it. Now, talking about some of the cards you can't necessarily profit off, but some of the most popular SBCs that go and fit it. We've got ourselves Rafael Varane, obviously an SBC from very early in the game. And there aren't actually too many super popular centre-back SBCs that fit this, especially ones that have been released recently. with Ruben Diaz Trackstar being another one of the most popular SBCs that fit it. And finally, an SBC that did come out a little bit recently was Tap Sober. We don't go and see the likes of John Stones fit in the SBC, the Evo, like we did go and see for the left back Evo. So yeah, there's we do have a lack of recent SBCs released. One of the reasons for this is because it's a maximum rating is 89. Obviously, a lot of the SBCs released recently aren't 90 rated or below, which is why we can have to, the latest promo we can have is FUT Birthday, because anything after that, it's very rare to go and see an SBC. We can go and prove right here that's below 90 rated. I mean, you've got Laporte, Milinkovic Savic, Oblak, POTM, Eric Garcia, McManaman, these coming at 91s, 92s, and it's another reason why you can't, again, expect to see any of these SBC cards fitting Evos anytime soon. So some of the most popular tradable players we talk about the SBCs is Van Dijk. Of course, that's why we recommended him. Another player, Saliba. It's actually interesting because the most popular tradable players, there's actually not that many expensive players in there. It's a lot of the base cards, with Saliba and Van Dijk being so popular early game, which is why they're under the most popular. Then we also go and see the likes of Conde fitting the Evo, and we also see the likes of Rudiger. Rudiger we recommended up to, I can't remember, did I recommend him up to 10.5k? So I think it's about the same price, so I think he can do well down the line. And the last thing I like to look at when it comes to Evo, what might be well demanded for the Evo and what might do well for investing, is what players can play other positions than centre-backs that have the highest in-game stats. So the player with the highest in-game stats that goes and fits this Evo is, which can also go and play in like CDM, is Tuchemeni. Another card is Leo Williamson. She can go and play CDM and has one of the highest in-game stats. And finally Tao, who can go and play centre-back, CDM and right-back. He is again one of the highest in-game stats. What else do we have to go and talk about? Yeah, this is quite an interesting point. So obviously I've shown you a lot of cards that have done well already for the investments, but you guys might be watching this and saying, okay, well, yeah, it's great that you've made coins, but what if I'm a little bit late to the Evos? How can I go and make coins if I'm late? If I'm first hearing about this watching the video? Well, just because you don't get in the first few minutes doesn't mean you miss out on the investments. Yeah, you miss out on some of the biggest investments, but there's still investments to go for. And the investments you want to go for is, and again, these are literally stuff, I will recommend my viewers buying these as well, but they won't be the first sort of cards I recommend. The first card I recommended, Van Dijk, literally was the best performing player. But then, after about 10-15 minutes of me going through the most popular players, I'll pick players who are less popular but I know will do well. So how I do this is I search for the most expensive, and again, we can presume that the first page are going to be quite expensive and going to be looked at quite early on. But if we go down to, I'd say, about 25k or below, or even 20k and below, what we can get to here is the Ring doorbell going off. Is we can see old promo cards that kind of are a little bit rare. For example, like, no one really wants Tanganga, so why is he 20k? Well, Tanganga's 20k because he's been made rare for Evos in the past. And I've got a few nice examples of this. So these players like Tanganga isn't going to be someone's first go-to investment, but he can do very nicely. So a nice example of this is Dragusin, right? When you see those requirements and Van Dijk's going to fit it, he's not your first protocol to invest in. But what I can show you is Dragusin time after time, week after week. In fact, if we go and look at 2 weeks ago Friday, we can see the last centre-back SBC. So we are at the moment, obviously on the 2nd, so that would have been 1 Friday ago. And if we have a little look ago, this would have been 2 Fridays ago. So we can see with the most recent centre-back Evo, the Kaiser actually managed, the Kaiser Evo, he actually managed to go from 23k all the way up there to probably about 29, maybe even 30k on the night. So you can see, again, at the moment, he was 18k before the Evo came out, and the Ring doorbell's going off again. And he's 19k now. So you can see he's only up a k, if that. But, if he goes and fits an Evo, he's been proven to do very well time after time. There we go, we can see he's done very well there. We can see he's done very well there. I mean, if I even go and scroll back again, we can see, again, he's done well there, he's done well there, he's done well there, he's done well there. So time after time, even this late into FIFA, he's consistently doing well for Evos. But he's not inflated because he's not the most mainstream sort of player to go for. If we go and look at another card, Gavardio was a nice example. Again, Gavardio before this Evo came out was 22k. Currently, Gavardio is 22k. He's not inflated whatsoever, meaning the risk in him is very low. But if we go back down here and look at the last month, we can see, or maybe we have to go back a little bit further than the last month because maybe the last month hasn't been too favourable, but we can see he's had some very high rises, 24 up there to 39, we can see 27 there to 32, not amazing. Here we can see 18 up to 25, we can see with the left back Evo recently, he's gone from 18.5 up there to 22, so we can see not definitely nowhere near as good as Dragusin, but we can see that again another card that probably is sitting very low risk because he's not inflated, but he has had nice fluctuations in the past. And the third player we're going to be showing you right there is Taiwo. I think I recommended him on Discord at 21k. So you can see he's up like 2.5k, but this is another really nice example of a player that can do really well. I mean, again, he was averaging 20k yesterday, averaging almost 22k the day before that. So again, he's not really that inflated on what he's been recently. But let's see some of those rises. He's done 24k up to 36k. And that again is the last time we had a centre-back SBC. The De Keyser SBC 2 weeks ago. We can see on the Thursday, 24, Friday he picked up, Saturday he peaked. Which means for these cards, they're probably going to go and peak on the Saturday. Although we'll be talking about a little bit later when we actually think this Evo is coming out. And that actually they might peak today, go down and then peak again. But yeah, if we go back down there to, if we go back to Taiwo, he had his initial rise for being used, I'm sure, in SBCs. But then he's just had a few rises other than that. Again, 29 up there to 39, 39 up to 48. And then again, had some recent rises of 25 to 36. And even going from 20 there to 24. So again, consistent demand, but not really that inflated. So that is how I would look at investing. If you're not right on it, you know, maybe you're an hour or two after the leaks come out, how you can still invest with it being low risk, but you know, we can definitely still see an upside. So talking about upsides, let's go and talk about what we know regarding the leak of this Evo. So what we know regarding the leak of the Evo is there is a big pace boost, so you know, could definitely favour holding on to some of the cards, especially those that aren't already up about 15% from what they were yesterday. My rule of thumb normally regarding do I want to sell an investment or hold it is if it's up more than 15% from the day before it was leaked or the day before it came out, I'll go and sell it before 6 PM. If it's only up 5-10%, especially if lines such as it's got a big pace boost coming, it actually might be worth or more favourable to actually hold on to the card and gamble the demand of the SBC. Now, obviously, we didn't see that happen with the left back Evo yesterday. It was abysmal, but you know, you get these Evos that are really well demanded. Where you know, if you maybe lose 5-10%, it's not the end of the world because if the card was well demanded, it might go up like 30%. Whereas the cards that are already up 30-40% going into the Evo, yeah, they're probably more appetizing, but if the Evo's no good, like the left back Evo yesterday, you're going to go and see cards crash. So the first information we know is that there's a pace boost, and the second bit of information is that we know there's a dribbling boost. We don't really care about the dribbling boost, but the pace boost is pretty big and relevant. Now I'm just talking about a little bit about some other leaks and some other content. One of the things that really surprised me was the situation or what's happened with these Dream Chasers cards. Now the reason we're quite surprised on the trend is because these cards to bang in price was really unfavourable. And the reason it was really unfavourable for these cards to bang in price is because they have been sitting at discard practically from the release. Well, what do we take away from them sitting at discard from the release? We take away that there is a lot of supply. You know, I mean, if we go and look at FUT birthday cards, we can see that these came, you know, out the back at about 16k, even up there to 17k. Whereas these cards came out and they were 12k instantly, and they were just 12k all week. And on top of that, actually, we had guaranteed tradable Dream Chaser packs, supplying these cards even more. Therefore, going into 6 PM yesterday, we believed that, you know, these cards that have been going up for 12k all week, they were up about 14k before the Evo came out. We were, you know, we thought they're so heavily supplied. You've just got people panic buying them before the SBC came out. Now, the SBC was only repeatable one time, which again was a massive surprise. That's something favourable for them to do well, because of course if you could have done the SBC twice, that's 6 needed instead of just 3 needed. So yeah, it was very surprising that again with only 3 being needed, with, you know, them already being inflated going into the SBC, where there seemed to be so much supply, for these cards to kind of double in price was very surprising. But yeah, I mean, it's just something we have for future reference. We don't really have a trend like this before, where they're 12k a week, so we didn't really know how they would do when demanded, but maybe they're 12k a week because they were underinvested. Although we, you know, predicted them being oversupplied. One of the reasons for that as well is also, if you look at the rest of the Dream Chaser cards, they are very cheap. Because the Dream Chaser cards are very cheap and all being fodder, it was dubbed that these cards were easy to pack. But yeah, just completely different trends to what we saw here happen with Sam's. Where again, she went out of pack, she kind of rose in the hype, hit the Monday, Upgrade SBC came out on the Tuesday, and we just didn't really see them rise whatsoever. They literally peaked before the SBC. So for them to go up to 23k now, especially when these cards are more expensive all week and probably dubbed as rarer, yeah, it was very, very surprising to go and see the trend that we did. But, you know, we saw it, so hey-ho. Other stuff to go and talk about. 2 weeks been leaked. It's forwarded by Bellingham. Then we've got ourselves a featured Klaassen. I believe that's the Dutch one. I believe it's the Dutch one. Not quite sure. Then we've got a featured Cometti, a featured player I'm going to butcher. And then a few other cards. Di Lorenzo in there. Alexi Garcia in there. DeMarco in there. I'm not quite sure what Martinez, but a Martinez in there. And yeah, plenty of other players I'm sure I can go and butcher. Nothing really to do there apart from maybe if Bellingham goes down to the price he was prior to the leak. Other stuff that's leaked, we've got Szczesny SBC. Again, London buses. No centre-back, no goalkeepers in promo teams and SBCs since the Pope. And then we go and get Szczesny and Oblak in the same week, which meant we were going to look at investing in Alisson this week because the goalkeeper's doing really well. But with there being 2 goalkeepers and next week's promo could go and have some goalkeepers, with it being an Icon Hero promo, we're probably going to hold off the goalkeeper investment. Yesterday we got the left-back Evo, again, was quite underwhelming. This is a interesting point to go and bring up. Basically, in the left-back video, we actually thought the Evo was going to come out on the Monday, and it came out on the Tuesday. So in the future, we're going to try and avoid making this mistake. Again, I have as much information as you guys have. I guess I'm just expected to anticipate it better, or to interpret it better. And I think how we can interpret this centre-back is that it actually might not be coming out today. Now, one of the reasons it might not be coming out today is because last week we had one Evo on the Tuesday, and then we didn't have an Evo all the way till the Friday. It's kind of been the same thing this week. We didn't have one on the Monday, which again is kind of when I expected it to be, but it came out on the Tuesday, like we saw last week, and then we didn't get another one until Friday. Well, also, so we kind of expect it being on Friday for that reason. And also, what EA's been doing a few times at the moment is when a Evo expires in one position, they replace it with an Evo in the exact same position. Now, we didn't see this happen for the last 2, but prior to that, the last 3 did that. So, we've got the De Kaiser Evo, literally the Evo I've been talking about. Look at what players went up for the De Kaiser Evo, it shows good demand. That Evo actually expires on the Friday. So one centre-back Evo expires on the Friday. This is a leaked centre-back Evo, probably going to be on the Friday. Which comes actually down to when's the best time to go and sell the centre-backs. Well, I would say if these centre-backs aren't really up anything more than 5-10% from yesterday, you can hold on to them pretty risk-free. But the stuff like Van Dijk, who's up, especially the cards that are in packs, who, you know, Van Dijk's up like 30-40%. Well, he's still going to get packed on Thursday with division rivals. He's still going to get packed with whatever promo tradable packs they get tonight. Those sort of cards are probably going to look at selling tonight, buy back on the Thursday, anticipate it being on the Friday. The hour pack promos, again, if they're up no more than 5-10%, you can hold on to them. They'll maybe go down 5%, but they're not in supply, which means they'll probably go up going into the Friday. And then the promo cards, they're up like 30-40%. I mean, it's down to you, especially as the Evo has been leaked to be quite well demanded. But if you want to play it safe, I'd probably go and sell it this evening. And then you've always got coins to go and maybe buy a bunch of Van Dijks, a bunch of Sleevers, a bunch of Rudigers over on the Thursday morning with Div Rivals. Other SBCs that leaked, Asensio, we don't really care too much about the Asensio. Bruno Fernandes, POTM, favourite to come out at 11 AM on the Friday. And yeah, that's about that. Now, here's an interesting thing we talked about in previous videos, that we're going to look at buying the SBC fodders from the promo team. Now, the reason we're going to look at buying the SBC fodders from the promo team, and by that I don't mean buying like the discard 88s, I mean buying the, if we can go and grab this week's team, I mean going and buying the 93s who are 93 rated fodder, the 92s who are 92 rated fodder. Why are we doing that? Well, for the last 3 promos, we've had a 1 million coin plus SBC on the Friday, which has made fodder go up. We had João Felix with Foot Fantasy, but more importantly, we had Cristiano Ronaldo with Flashback, and we had Hullet with Dream Chasers. Meaning with this being week 1 of a promo, we are anticipating a big SBC on Friday. It's not leaked, it's just going off of trends, and that's kind of what trading is all about. So we'd quite like the investment in fodder. This is actually backed up by the leakers saying, someone asked, Icon SBC on Friday. He says, I don't know the date, but there is a decent Icon SBC. So hopefully that is more hinting towards there being a big SBC on Friday, meaning we'll probably look at buying fodder in the first 15 minutes in Div Rivals, gambling that this big icon SBC or whatever gets leaked on the Friday, and that it goes up nicely like it has for the last 2, maybe /3 promos. But that's going to go and wrap that up. Thank you very much for watching, and we shall see you guys tomorrow with a brand new video.